Talk about the lock the gate slogan that you guys have been using, and you guys had it on your warm up shirts on Saturday.
Yeah, somebody saw that at a movie, and then they liked it, and then they made a T-shirt out of it for them. So I don't think it's like a really huge deal, more of a team deal, and then and it's kind of like if you're on a team and you do things together, everybody likes the same stuff. So I guess it's in style in our locker room right now.
You know what movie it was and who watched it? And
I don't recall. All right. Well, that was great.
Coach, what have you seen on film from Washington? What kind of challenges do they present?
They look eerily similar to what they do every year. They're big, strong, fast, pursue the ball. They're aggressive. Washington's one of those teams that one team looks pretty similar one to the next, And
then this will be the first time in a few years where you go up against a quarterback not named Jake Browning. What have you noticed on film from Jacob Eason?
Big kid, big arm. Moves reasonably well, but he's a pocket passer. Talented guy, transferred in and beat out the backup. So, good quarterback.
What are your thoughts on Sal Von Ahmed's year this year? They've had a lot of good running backs go through there that have gained some pretty big yards against you guys in the past. What are your thoughts on Ahmed?
Looks like the ones they've had in the past, really. I mean, he's I'd say he's a little faster, tiny bit bigger than, the guy last year, who was a good player. He's playing in the league somewhere. No, he's a good player. A fairly dynamic guy, and he's a big part of their offense, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pound it and run it and shift the front and get an overlap.
How run heavy do you expect them to be?
Pretty run heavy. I think at least 50%. I would say at least probably 60%, I would guess.
And this is obviously a big rivalry between the fans. How would you describe the rivalry between Washington and Washington State?
I think it's really big between the fans, and I think there's and you hear about it all the time. I think the players were just trying to improve, and that's the biggest thing we can do this week is focus on improvement, be the best team we can be, and go out there and play as well as we can.
For having a quarterback with a big arm, their offense has definitely struggled in the last two games. What have you kind of seen out of their offense?
I haven't watched their offense a ton. I've watched mainly their defense, but I don't know. I think that they've had some things that didn't time out well for them, like an untimely sack or an untimely turnover or something, but that doesn't change what they are. I mean, they have a lot of firepower, and they're bigger and more physical than nearly everybody in the conference, and they run better than nearly everybody in the conference. So, we need to go out there, play the best we can. We're very proud to be on the same field with those guys.
What has made them so consistently kind of the same each and every year, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's kind of the nature of the kids that they get. I think that they've always gotten big physical kids. This goes way back. This goes before, before Peterson was ever there or any of that. They've always gotten big kids. And I think that, they're located right there in Seattle where there's, a number of quality players. And so then I think they get that, and then they, pluck California and other states, and and I also think going clear back to Don James, they created quite a tradition there.
Last year you talked about the differences between you and Chris Peterson, saying he's the teacher's favorite, the one that's there before class.
He still is. No, I don't think it has. I mean, I'm trying to improve my state of existence, but I think he's still still is happily, everybody thinks well of him. Well, part of it is he is a great guy, and then so I'll try to improve and catch up,
And Max Borghi was quoted saying after the game, didn't give a score prediction, but he said he will be scoring a lot. Do you like to have your offense to have that kind of confidence going into every game because you do, put pride in putting points on the board?
Well, we need to do the best we can to score. We need to, if you make enough routine plays, you probably score, So we need to do that. Should have scored more last game. We squandered some chances.
Outside of weather, obviously, what has been tough about scoring against Washington in the past?
Just what they're really good defensively. I mean, they're always one of the best defenses in our league. The National Football League seems to think that they're really good at stopping people from scoring. That's why they draft all their players, So, and they go out there, they play tough defense against everybody.
How do you feel your third down defense has been since the Cal game?
Improved, a work in progress.
From a coaching perspective, what changes go into coaching on a short week?
Yeah, you try to jam stuff in. You just got to kind of speed things up so without overtaxing your team, So you got to back off on a few things, but still get all your work in.
You mentioned Don James. Did you ever meet him, or did you just kind of follow his career there? Obviously, it was way before you were here, and before you were at Texas Tech.
I've never met Don James. I've met people that have worked with Don James, like Gary Pinkel, and heard stories, even just like former coaches and stuff. And he's always been a fairly fascinating guy to me because just growing up and really admiring some of these old coaches. I mean, he was one of them that was always, real successful. And he was kind of quietly successful, but, was was definitely a guy I was well aware of.
I believe Gordon's about 80 yards away from 5,000. I think only 12 quarterbacks have done that, including 3 of your guys. And he was in here earlier talking about his kind of similarities between himself and B.J. Simons. Can you speak to that a little bit? And obviously coaching both of them.
Well, they've never met each other that I'm aware of. They do have some similarities. Both of them, the ball comes off their hand quickly. Both early in their career were, kind of fearless and had to get reined in. Once they were reined in, then they were a lot more effective. They were fearless to the point where they thought anything was possible and it could end up reckless. And then, of course, when they got precise, and then it was just really sharp and really quick and really explosive. Both confident guys, which I think is one of the most important assets of a quarterback, is their confidence. And then, BJ a little more outgoing. BJ always thought he was Eminem, and was of course some of that rap stuff was big then, and he was all about that. And honestly, he was on our team. All these guys would get up and rap before meetings and have those deals rap out where it's like a rap thing that they do where it's almost like a debate, but they get all over each other. And then they, BJ and Eric Cooper, if I recall correctly, were regarded as the two very best at that. And he was a real smart guy, majored in finance and marketing, and was like captain of the math team in high school, but didn't want anybody to know it because it would hurt his street cred. And but it was always an incredibly intelligent guy.
Gordo doesn't rap before meetings?
No, I don't know if he can or not. Gordo's a little more understated. Gordo's a little more, I don't even know if he's an ocean guy, but seems like he's got a little more beach in him,
Does he share anything with Graham or Cliff, two of the other quarterbacks who went over 5,000 in a season?
Yeah, I just well, he's accurate like those guys. He's real accurate like those guys, and just just a real good command of the offense. Just real good under center as far as leading the unit, and then also sorting out what the defense is doing. That's one of the biggest things. Is once you're accurate, then most of the rest of the work comes from the neck up.
Does it take everything to kind of come together to be able to throw for 5,000 yards in a season between having a really good O-line, really good receivers, a really good quarterback? Does everything have to come together because it's only happened 15 times in the history of the sport?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people involved. I mean, you need great play by your offensive line. You need to be a good quarterback, and you need to have really good running back and receivers. How many of mine you say did that?
There's 15 who've done it, but 12 who've done it, but I think Graham did it twice, and Case Keenum did it twice or 3 times. So I think there's been 15 seasons where a quarterback's done it, but only 12 players. And Gordon, I think, was
how many did my guys cover?
I think 4 or 5.
Okay, good. I'm going to look at a graph. Jesus. So BJ. Oh, here we go. Well, it's better than average. Okay.
At the beginning of camp, you talked about the receiver group weren't ready yet at that point to call them one of the best you've had top to bottom. Now that we're at the end of the season, you have 2 that can go over 1,000, and I believe 7 that can go over 500. Where would you put them in the best you've seen in your career?
I think they're still a work in progress, too. I think we do some good things. I think we're explosive. I think we still battle consistency a little bit.
Usually rivalry week is not something, obviously, that you play up, but a lot of these players have not beaten Washington. Do you want them to have that kind of angst going into a week like this?
I want them to just worry about improving and getting better this week and focus on their job and just tenaciously battle to play one play at a time.
Is that something where comments or last year, all that stuff, do you try to completely compartmentalize that and just focus on you guys every single week, no matter what?
Well, anything else is just bluster. I mean, it doesn't contribute. It doesn't help. I mean, how does it help anything? I mean, it doesn't help anything. And all you have is do the best of your ability, do it as often as you can, as consistently as you can, and keep doing it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sit there and reflect and, read some kind of quote or something. That doesn't do anything. I mean, that doesn't affect anything. That's just noise. So
in games in the past for you as a coach, you've seen a lot of players, a lot of games. When you take down Texas, the #1 team, 10 years ago, do you see any of the rivalry, the excitement change the way players play?
We didn't have any crazy hype or anything like that. I mean, that worked for you when you played? Oh, well, you'll have to give me some pointers. You got some good stuff.
Any questions on the phone line for Coach Leach? On the phone line.
Yeah, Coach, I know that Scott has the Seattle Times. The defensive coordinator after last week's game said you guys do the same thing every time. I mean, do you plan on doing anything differently, or just do what you guys do, just execute better what you do already?
We're going to just focus on ourselves and steady improvement this week.
Other questions on the phone line?
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask about Brandon Arconato, Justman here. he took a hard fall laying out for a ball in the end zone in the second quarter, ended up coming back in the game. I was just wondering what you could say about his toughness.
He's a tough guy. I mean, he finished that whole game and was instrumental in us on the last drive, and good, tough, precise player. And the worst thing about Brandon being a senior is he was kind of one of those late developer guys. When he came here, he looked like he was about 14, and so in a way, those first 3 years shouldn't count. We ought to be able to keep him 3 more, the way I look at it. But but this year, just like this year and halfway through last year, I mean, he's very difficult to stop. There's nobody in the league that's been consistently stopping him.
Do you think he could continue to develop to the point where he could play at the next level?
I don't know. I mean, he's getting better all the time. I don't think he's even played his best football. I think that he's honestly about 2 or 3 years away from that.
And I wanted to ask about Renard Bell, who had 2 touchdowns in the game, one that put Anthony Gordon on top of the Pac-12 single-season passing touchdown record. What is he? I mean, you've talked about him as just a guy who is a very good blocker. He's very undersized. What does he do so well that gives him that advantage, considering how much he gives up in the size differential?
Like he can do flips and stuff like that. He has that whole ninja quality out there. I think he's really excited to play. So then and then guys who are really excited to play are kind of obsessed with it because they enjoy it, and then they improve quicker. And then he's a real smart guy. He always knows where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. And then he is pretty athletic.
We've seen Jarrett Kingston get in a little bit on the offensive line. Looking forward, what kind of projection do you have for him?
Well, I think he's going to be a very good player. I think he'll be a really good player, and I think he'll play some this week.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Any other questions on the phone line for Coach? Okay, back in the room.
I think Renard has said before his track career was kind of important to getting him recruited for his track career. He was a sprinter in high school. I believe he wasn't really recruited a lot because of his size, and then once he started running some pretty impressive track times, he was able to send the track times to different schools. Do you remember recruiting him as not as a track athlete, but looking at his track film or getting his times from his coaches down there?
I don't remember that aspect of it, and that could have happened for sure. But we did a satellite camp at his high school, and then he was one of the kids that worked out at the satellite camp, and then we definitely liked him from there. But we were familiar with him before that, though, too.
I think 2 years ago, after one of those games, he kind of went off when Falk was here. I believe you said something like, if you could choose a roommate on the road, you'd want to room with Renard because he's so positive. Is he like that every day? Has he been like that for 3 years?
He's never not like that. No, he really is quite remarkable.
Is it neat to see Blake Mazza named one of 3 Lou Groza finalists? I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's quite a distinction. So, hope Blake and the rest of our team win that award.
Going back to your quarterbacks kind of getting ready, doing rap battles back in your Texas Tech days, if you were to have a song that would get you hyped before a football game, what would it be? Maybe an album? Anything?
That's tough because favorite songs are different than, you need a kind of a locker room wise, you want kind of a special energy, So your favorite song may be something mellower. But then locker room wise, a little more energy to it. Pretty much anything on that one album by AC/DC is pretty outstanding. I mean, you can't go wrong. And it is kind of remarkable about, there's about 15 songs on there, any one of which is awesome, like Hell's Bells and all that.
Apple Cup time, I just wanted to know, have you ever been bobbing for apples before, and if so, were you good at it?
Never have, and not entirely sure what that is. I've heard of it, but I don't,
It's like when you dip your head into the water and try to...
So people actually do that?
I don't know if they do it much anymore, but...
I'll have to see it done first, maybe.
As a team, do you guys do anything Thanksgiving related, or since everyone's here instead of back home with their families?
We go to Zeppo's, so we'll go to Zeppo's on Wednesday, where there'll be... and they do a fantastic job of catering a Thanksgiving dinner, which is outstanding. And then, those guys will bowl and play games, and a great time will be had by all as they have Thanksgiving, and it's the whole team together there. So it's a pretty good deal.
And what do you think of just in general people saying what they're thankful for during Thanksgiving week? Is that something you think is overrated, overdone?
I think it's pretty good. I actually think it's pretty good. I think that I think it's a pretty good idea. Some families, my family never did it this way, but some families, when they pray like at dinner or something, they would. Each person would mention something they were thankful for that day. And I think that really is pretty positive as far as, just reinforcing what you have to appreciate. And, I think that's really a pretty good idea. I've never done it, but as I've been a part of groups like that, or, if you're with somebody like that, it does occur to me it's a pretty good idea once a day to reflect on something that you're privileged to be a part of or that you have,
Do you have any wild Thanksgiving stories?
Not a lot. Let me think. Let's see. Nothing really exciting. One time I was at my father-in-law's house. We were headed down there, and he wasn't a big football guy, so he had the TV tucked away. And I said, well, I'm going to go to a sports bar and watch the football games, and so you call me when dinner's ready. And somehow he found the TV. So then the TV got hooked back up. I make the gravy. And Sharon's a really good cook, but her family never did much gravy making, so I've made the gravy for years. And then one time she got this product by one of those plastic companies. I don't know which one. There's a number of them. A bunch of plastic stuff that goes together, and at least to a lot of wives, it's irresistible. It's like, as soon as there's something plastic that belongs in the kitchen, which in my mind, few things could be more useless, okay? So got to have it, right? So this thing's like some kind of a thing where you can mix for gravy. Like, first of all, it's way too small. Okay, then you mix the potato water with the flour and the milk, and you're shaking it up. But as the hot air expands, the thing exploded, got all over my shirt. And one I was ticked off. She handed me, no, here. So I want to do it how I always do it, right? No, here, use this. I bought this. This is really good. No, this will make it a lot easier. Well, it's not that hard to begin with, so it doesn't have to be a lot easier. No, use this. So I put it in there. I shake it up. The thing explodes, goes all over my shirt. I went to the patio door. I took that thing and rifled it into the neighbor's yard. And the last time I saw that thing, it exploded on the side of the neighbor's house. And then I never saw that thing again. And I'm glad I never saw it again. And I don't know what the neighbor did with it. It was kind of cold outside, and I thought that it was probably best I don't go talk to him and ask him about it. And then maybe they could find some plastic thing and put it to good use.
Are you more of a turkey or a ham guy?
Turkey for sure, yeah. Yep. White meat turkey.
Abe Lucas was the offensive lineman of the week in the Pac-12. Can you talk about the development he's had from last year to this year?
He keeps getting better. But again, I think he's not tapped out either. I mean, he looks, and he's always been a gigantic guy, but he's getting stronger. He's getting faster. And the other thing is, he's getting to where he synchronizes better with the rest of the unit than he has,
Then I think in this game, the past 5 or 6 years, I don't think you guys have scored a touchdown in the first quarter. How important would it be to get on the board early and kind of to take advantage of an early opportunity and get on the board with the touchdown?
Well, it's important to score as many as you can, as often as you can. All games are like that. Certainly last game was.
Anything else for Coach? Okay, go ahead on the phone.
Hey, Jessamine again. I was just going to ask about Skylar Thomas. 2 games ago, he didn't get the start, but he really seemed to respond well. He had a monster breakup on 4th down. What would you just say about his performance the last 2 games?
I think he's improved. The biggest thing is, in his case, just being consistent and having his eyes in the right place, because he's kind of an aggressive, full throttle guy. But with regard to executing, I mean, you can be as intense and full throttle as you want to, but if you're running full throttle the wrong direction, you're hurting yourself, not helping yourself. And so, really just consistently getting his eyes in the right place is the biggest key for him to play well.
Jahad Woods has emerged as quite a big leader on the defense there, but he's not exactly that talkative. What would you say about him as a leader on the defensive front?
Well, I think he does a pretty good job by example, and honestly, I think in a lot of cases, he plays a little better when he doesn't talk too much and just kind of focuses on what he needs to do. Just locks in and worries about the example more than anything.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Last chance for Coach. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
All right, Coach, getting back to the Thanksgiving theme, how would you rank all the Thanksgiving dishes in terms of like turkey to corn to mashed potatoes? How would you rank them?
Okay, white meat first, the turkey. Gravy second. I'm not a huge mashed potatoes guy, but probably well, if you're lucky enough, which is very difficult unless you're in the South, if you can get the corn on the cob, especially that white stuff, which is hard to get that time of year, the really white, pearly white corn on the cob, that would be third. If not, then I'd say mashed potatoes. And then, and if you're really lucky, which we don't make these and honestly don't know how to, if you're really lucky and they have greens, if they have collard greens, that's outstanding. Then that would jump ahead of the mashed potatoes. But you got to be right place or somebody's making them or in there. That's kind of a project too to make them, to do them really well. Collard greens would be like that'd be right after gravy. and then or corn or vegetable, and then drumsticks are somewhere in there pretty high, because the drumsticks that are all kind of crispy and that type of thing's pretty good. Yeah, you can't have it without cranberry sauce, but cranberry sauce is sort of like Thanksgiving ketchup, And then the pie's in a different category. When my daughter makes the blackberry pie, that's the best one.
Anything else, Coach? Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks.